Welcome back to The Matrix, fellas. Are you ready for the fastest broke canon of your godforsaken life? Well, get ready! In 2019, me and a friend to the channel found a signed copy of Jodie Whittaker's shooting script for Twice Upon a Time going on eBay. As you may know, there's a lot of whispers surrounding the story. What was in this mythical 30 minutes that got cut out of the finished version? Why were there extra scenes filmed of Ben and Polly? What the hell is this Barusa's poem I keep hearing about? I understand the process from script to screen, but 30 minutes is a lot of stuff. I asked around, but the script provided for novelization was basically the same. It was only at a convention that Rachel Talalay really explained what we lost. Moffat left the final broadcast cut to her, and a lot of the script was tightened up. Most importantly, the links back to the 10th planet. And then they played these cutscenes at the convention. Footage that is not publicly available. So we've got the testimony of the writer and the director, but this wasn't in the script we were looking to purchase. So as far as I'm concerned now, this is a full conspiracy. I apologize to every Snyder fan I have ever called a cult member. I need this extended bitch of a cut. Otherwise I'm going to cut a bitch. At first it may seem faithful to the televised version, but there's a couple big things we can glean. According to Stephen Moffat, the Doctor's teacher, mentor, and backstabber Barusa was best known on Gallifrey for being a poet. A famously bad poet. There's also suspicions elsewhere that he is still alive, and never died in the Time War. Thank you, Titan Comics, for that one. The first Doctor confirms he took a passive role in the 10th planet because he knew how the events would play out. 12 makes a quippy aside to owning a VHS tape of the Dalek Master Plan. Before this can be elaborated on, we're told that the Daleks lost their copy of it centuries ago. Yeah, okay, cool, but what does that mean? Nardole died happily at the age of 728. Not only surviving the Doctor Falls, but going on to start a harem of 6 wives, and he even settled the human-Cybermen dispute. Oh. That's sorted then. Makes these guys look kind of overdramatic in retrospect. And most controversially of all, the first Doctor wasn't really being sexist in Twice Upon a Time. No, he was just trying to wind 12 up in this version. Because apparently he was in on the joke and didn't like him. I get that you can do this sometimes with books, you can give people new perspectives by getting into their head. This one's a stretch. There is sexism in the First Doctor's era, consciously and unconsciously. I swore off discussing this years back. I love that Stevie Moffat poked fun at these 60s sensibilities in a story about self-improvement. Twice Upon a Time is one big story of, look how far we've come. Because of this edition, course correction, the First Doctor is as progressive as they come. Like an edgy comedian with a bad set, or an internet troll. See, it's funny, cause he didn't mean it. I don't get it, but that's canon now. Give me this footage. Give me these 30 mythical minutes that may or may not exist and may or may not invert my favourite story entirely. The First Doctor making sexist quips? Unheard of.
But a strange man kept telling me to take my clothes
Now, come
off.
along, we must go back to the TARDIS. This is a madhouse. It's all full of Arabs. Come along.
Hey, what's your excuse for that one? Should I have bought that script anyway? Yes. Should we go and harass all the cast and crew? No. It is too early to strike, my brothers. Wait for the signal. And if you're shrugging your shoulders and you're not sad about a missing half hour, just know that supposedly the same happened with Day of the Doctor. So do with that what you will. It's snowing! In May! For those of you unfamiliar with this phenomenon, snow was a form of precipitation, which occurred when the air temperature was below the freezing point of water.
Snow! Oh, real snow! Proper snow at last!
Sometimes it snows, sometimes it's ash, sometimes it's part of an alien hive mind trying to kill you. Due to a time paradox, snow on Christmas Eve is prohibited. In Stranded Box Set 3, there's one really beautiful story. where Snow becomes more than pathetic fallacy and becomes a literal manifestation of grief. Returning to London in the 2030s, Baker Street has only one remaining resident, Ron Winters, unit soldier alumni from the Pertwee years, who has become one of the Doctor's tenants.
I'm the landlord victorious.
Mr. Tennant, no. Whenever Ron and his husband Tony show up in these things, you know you're going to be grabbing the tissues. And not for sexy reasons. In unit dating, 8 travels back to the Pertwee years, says hi to the Brigadier and starts jeopardizing their lives together, as Tony can feel the Doctor walking around in his memories, influencing and changing them. Oh, by the way, the Brigadier says gay pride.
Are you asking me out?
I reckon I am.
What my soldiers do after hours is entirely their own affair. And good luck to them. Unit has dealt with stranger things in its time.
Really, sir? Thank you, sir.
Yes, well, carry on, Lance Corporal.
The Brigadier isn't homophobic. Woo! Personally, I think that's the most far-fetched fact so far. But it's when we get around to Snow. Remember how this fact was about snow? The garden outside Baker Street is the last place on planet Earth where it snows. And out of nowhere, 8 explains to the gang how snow isn't dictated by weather patterns or freezing points. It instead follows the grief of time travelers. Let me be clear, this isn't in a metaphorical sense. It's very literal.
But the snow stays. It'll follow you wherever you go.
Wherever I go?
Absolutely.
Look, I'm not going to cinema sins a beautiful story. What an image. Looking outside your window and seeing the snow that reminds you of being with your long-dead husband. It's one of the nicest notes a Doctor Who story has ever wrapped up on. But also, snow is just magic. It's a time vortex phenomenon, which we don't know anything about. I guess that's why it sometimes snows on Gallifrey. And the Ood, they time travel? If I were to take it over literally, and trust me, you're on the right web series for that, I would then ask, why isn't it snowing every single place the TARDIS goes? But the more I think about that, the more I want to give myself a wedgie and push myself in a locker. The Doctor theorises that the snow was attracted to Ron because of his exposure to time travel in the Ogron time loop.
What? This?
An extra-dimensional eddy. And no place, no time, loop within a loop.
It's pretty.
Yeah, what the ape boy said.
Ogron. Ape is offensive.
Trust me when I say I've listened to all 4 of these box sets, and you think I'd remember something like an Ogron time loop. I did finish Stranded in the end. It proved me wrong many times. The final story on the box finally acknowledges the real-world hellhole that was the real 2020. The final story, Best Year Ever, feels like therapy, as the Doctor, Liv Helen, PC Andy all actually live under lockdown. It's like one of those domestic alternate universe fanfics. They clap for the NHS and watch the Queen's Gambit. The Doctor plays PC Andy's pub quiz. It's all blisteringly authentic, even down to the zoom lag, as the story actually buffers, as was the fashion at the time. But the weird thing that nobody wants to talk about is that the Doctor and Co. chose this timeline, accidentally inflicting the pandemic timeline on us because they deemed it the lesser of 2 evils. Too soon! But if snow is just a symptom of time traveller's grief, maybe it's fitting that whenever the Doctor looks at snow, he thinks of Jamie McCrimmon, which I had a joke prepared for, but I'm just going to throw that out because that's lovely, and I ship it. Fact number 3. Ooh, you have been on a Big Finish box set binge, Sam. Yes, you're correct, but this time, just for my boy. Winston Churchill. No, I listened to Ravenous One finally, because that's where Big Finish decided, let's bring back the Candyman. I speak to you now as a man who has completed the Candyman marathon. I've watched every story with this Bassett boy in it. He is genuinely scary to me.
I beg your pardon.
Like honestly, laugh at him all you want, but if he was at Doctor Who Time Fracture, you would steer the fuck away, and don't tell me you wouldn't. And not only did they revisit the concept of Candy Android, the expanded media's tried to take him in a couple different directions, which is ridiculous. It's the Candyman, the stock joke answer when people say, what Doctor Who monster would you bring back? Well, Big Finish hit the bottom of the barrel a while ago. Their take on the Candyman was to return to the original concept of the Happiness Patrol and just make him a very humanoid man. Any single soul who would want the Candyman to return would not want you to downplay the Candyman. In this story, he's working in a prison complex. Turns out nobody can say no to my Bakewell tarts! And as a result, he's experimenting on the inmates and using mind control. For those of you who don't know, the Candyman is a sugar-based alchemist who can control huge swaths of the population via desserts and treats and sweeties. Thank God 4 never ran into him. He would have met his match. One jelly baby, and the show's over. There's a lot of dark material, and the Candyman is strangely used as a form of population control so that nobody breaks the law in this far-off space society. Not the angle I would take him, but, okay. This psychopathic android was then killed for good. Big Finish washed their hands of him, as Livchenko pushed him into a vat of additives. But instead of turning him into the Joker, it turns him into a gloopy glucose man, more syrup than man. And in the climax, he grabs the man who rebuilt him. The 11. They melted together because he's so sticky, and they ended up in the lair of the real series Big Bad, a giant spider. I just find it funny that the most canonically powerful Time Lord in the series, like proper godhood stuff, has the Candyman as a side project. Yeah, let's go find him, dig him out of a dustbin. Weird plan, yeah. He does get around though. He was one of many guests at Damon Bonjax's birthday bar party. The one with Optimus Prime and Spider-Man and Combat Wombat. They run in similar circles, I guess. And in the second Decalogue book, it's Paul Cornell again, where Seven and Benny return to Tara. You know, the android plays from Key to Time. But they've added one more android to their arsenal. This was one of Cornell's first ever pieces of Doctor Who writing, and I just can't help but think he was like, right, just wrote Love and War, what's the big passion project? Android of Tara and Happiness Patrol, fight! For some reason, it's written in the vernacular of a play. With affected archaic language, it's positively Shakespearean, specifically Midsummer Night's Dream, even down to the characters' names being references, like Titania, Oberon, Candyman. I just got 2 questions. Why do they keep rebuilding the Candyman? How do they find him? And number 2, did you have to kill him off again?
Oh, that this too solid flesh does melt. I die, Count Grendel.
He dies. What a way to go.
I agree, you're a pimplehead.
I'm finding this rather tiresome.
The Bassett's Licorice Company will sue. So there we go. There is no baddie that Big Finish is beneath bringing back. God bless them for it. If you want more candy sweetness, I asked the boys over at the Battles in Fandom podcast how they would seriously bring back the Candyman for modern audiences. Go over and take a listen and see who won. Consider dropping a tip on my Ko-fi below, and don't take candy from strangers. Basics, guys.